Hey gang, and thanks so much for tuning in as we celebrate and kind of look back on 4 months of life on the road, full-time in an RV. We want to talk about some of our triumphs and some of our tribulations, of which we've had a lot of both. But at the end of the day, we can't imagine that we would have learned as much as we have over the last 4 months. So we want to share that with you. We want, for those of you who are thinking about changing your life, getting rid of your home like we did, putting everything into storage, hitting the road, finding those campgrounds, meeting new friends, having your share of challenges, but just a complete change in your life. For those of you who are considering it, we hope that this video might be helpful. And for those of you who are doing it already, we'd love to hear from you. So, we are Rolling Help. This is my wife, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
My name is Tony, and we can't wait to share the next 10 or 15 minutes with you. Please stay tuned because we're talking about RV life. This is what we love to talk about on YouTube, but we are a nonprofit who is raising money through our other social media platforms, and we're trying to give voice to food banks in small towns. So that's why we ask you to please subscribe to our videos. We give you tons of great content, but subscribing does a lot more than just increasing our viewership.
Right.
So that being said, Chris, you came to all this in a little different position than I had, in that you grew up in Hawaii. You spent the last several decades on the islands, and we've been on the mainland for 2 years right now. You've had some college trips with your daughters and so forth, but you haven't seen the nation to the extent that I had, or spent a lot of time on the road. So what were your expectations going into all this?
Well, initially, my expectation was that this was one big, beautiful country, you know, and I knew geographically states and nuances and all of that. But what I found that each state has its own unique characteristic. You know, it's been eye-opening, seriously.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, we've met a real wide range of folks out here on the road. There's no way that you can put RVers in just one box. So, yeah. And so, I talked a minute about the fact that we have this charity, and so let's talk a little about what we think makes this feasible and what is a necessary ingredient for you who are thinking of RVing as a lifestyle and doing it full time. And that is to have some purpose.
Right.
You know, the people that we talk to that are just kind of bouncing around from town to town and seeing the sights, I'm telling you, they're getting bored. And you can't wake up every day, and if you go out there, you're going to find something new and unique. But for a lot of folks, they're working while they're out there, and that's entirely possible. In our case, our purpose is the charity. That's why we're traveling around from one small town to the other. So let's go ahead, and I think the best way to share with you the lessons that we've learned and what you can expect full-time out on the road is to just kind of real quick, let's go through the different trips that we've taken, because we've always returned to Denver. Even though we no longer have a home there, we have family there. That's where our home address, our mailing address, the address for the charity, and our insurances and all of these things that you can't avoid not having a base if you're going to go full time. I'm not saying have a home to go back to. We don't. We have family and we have a good discount on hotels, which we spend a lot of time in, as you'll see. But you have to have a base. I just don't see how you can do this without it. Again, base means what is your address? I know that there are services you can use and so forth. I don't see how that wouldn't work for us anyways. So our first trip, which this all began the beginning of April, our first trip was down to Texas, South Texas, and back up again through New Mexico. So we went down through Central Texas into the hill country, and then across over to Alpine. We were visiting food banks along the way.
Oh, wonderful people.
Yeah, we met some incredible people in Kerrville and also in Alpine, Texas. A really small community, a population of, I believe, just a couple of thousand.
Yeah.
But yet they have a fully functioning food bank because the need is there. So we made a donation, and we saw the Big Bend area of Texas, and then we made our way back up through New Mexico. Angel Fire was an amazing spot, and then back into Denver. So anything that struck you especially on that first trip?
Well, yeah. I mean, at first it felt overwhelming that, here we are going to go, from Denver all the way down to Texas. And we did really good. We were okay. I
agree. When we first picked up the RV and had the movers at our home to take everything, everything we were going to take to storage and pack up the RV. And I've talked to other people that have experienced this. Be prepared for a shock. Yeah. You think that you're going to have enough room to put everything that you want to take along with. And that Grand Design, a 41-foot toy hauler, it was just bursting. And we had to just pare it down until it became livable.
Yes.
And that was overwhelming. So we went back into Denver. We had some repairs. That's going to be a common theme. And then we went out to the West Coast. We went through Zion's, which was amazing. We went into Idlewild, which is up in the San Bernardino Hills. It's a notorious Thousand Trails campground because it really is difficult to get to, and it's nearly impossible if you've got a huge rig, which we do. And the drive up there is precarious, and there are very few parking spots that are large enough, but that's for another day. An amazing trip back in through Vegas, and then we regrouped again. So we set out on our way to the south this time. We need a little more time in Denver than we thought, both for repairs and I think kind of to regroup. So we spent about a week in hotels on that one. But we went out through Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, and we spent about a week in a campground in Arley, Alabama, on a gorgeous lake, rented a boat, had an amazing time, and then made our way back. But that trip was, I think at that point, we really started to feel like we were RVers.
Oh yeah. And the thing is that we were...
Okay.
The thing is that I didn't expect Arley to have so much there for us. I mean, that lake, I knew that we were on a lake, but I had no idea on how adventurous and fun. And I mean, living on an island, no lakes, we have an ocean, yes, but You know, it's just, it was so much
it was
fun.
Really, and the people were great, and that's an amazing Thousand Trails campground that I would highly.
But that is also another tip, hon. If you guys have the opportunity to stay at a campground, especially when you're initially going out, take the time to get really familiarize yourself with your rig, because we just got up and just gunged forward and all that stuff, and we went through all different states and California and this and that. But I think Arley, you're right, was a time that we really settled down and kind of got the groove.
Yeah, because we had become familiar, I think, with the rig.
Yeah.
So back into Denver, and this is where the fun began. So we had a 6-day or 7-day hotel stay for repairs at Lazy Days. We had a list this long, about this much was able to get done. And then we set out on the trip that we're on right now. We got one night to Rollins, Wyoming, and a complete electrical failure. We've got other videos about what exactly happened, but the bottom line is this was a nightmare because we had to haul the RV back to Lazy Days in Denver, and they were unable to even look at it for 10 days. And so then we kind of found out that no matter what the repair was, the likelihood was very high that it would be 6 to 8 weeks before it could even be fixed, because of the massive overloading of the RV industry overall, and certainly repair facilities and techs and so forth.
Industry-wide problem.
So what we ended up doing was we talked to the dealership, and they offered to purchase back the Momentum for a couple $1,000s, $7,000 more than what we paid for it. And then we bought Diva, which has been incredible. It's changed our experience. It is easier to tow. It is so much more comfortable, and it's more reliable. And so our experience changed big time when that happened. So that all took almost 2 weeks. So we really got set behind in our schedule. And as you all know, reservations are a huge challenge. So we set out on this trip. We're currently outside of Yosemite. We've traveled almost 2,000 miles so far. We went from Denver through Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, into Oregon, and across along the Columbia River, and then we hit the coast. And we've been, I guess, about 5 or 6 weeks out now. We spent a couple weeks on the Oregon coast, and we've had repairs done along the way, which is normal with any new rig. But I think that the biggest lesson that we've learned is obviously this whole situation with repairs and issues with these rigs. The bottom line is that in doubling production in the industry, there's no way that they can have quality control that will cover every new rig that's coming out. And so then you couple that with repairs that are necessary on existing rigs. The moral of this story is you're going to have problems, and you've got to be prepared to pivot, as you always say, and just take a breath and deal with it, because Chris's disposition is usually a lot more even-tempered than mine. I'll blow up in a hurry, but then I'll dig in. And I could have lost my mind at this point with some of the problems that we've had. And you really, again, this goes back to RV with a purpose. Because if this was just about fun and games, we might have thrown in the towel a time or two with some of the problems that we've had. But we have a commitment to our donors and to the cause that we represent. Okay, so this takes us back to that original premise of having a purpose, having a rationale, having a reason behind going out full time on the road. And it definitely can be that you want to see every state and you've got a plan and you're going, but our point is you can't just go out and just wing it. Because you will get bored, you will, it'll seem more trouble than it's worth from time to time, and so on. It's not that you won't survive, it's that what we know is that those people that we talk to that are working along the way, or they're involved in something like we are in a nonprofit, or what have you, that purpose is what keeps you going. That purpose is what takes you over these humps of repairs and the challenges and the problems that you can encounter. Remember, we're riding around in 23,000 pounds of metal and fiberglass on wheels at 65 miles an hour. Blank is going to happen. And it certainly has to us. Yeah. So I've learned that this is something that is actually more enjoyable, and it's more than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
in a
really
positive way.
It really is rewarding, definitely.
So boom, we're going forward. But I am really glad that we have the responsibilities and the purpose that we have with Rolling Help.
Yes.
And how do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel great, and you're right. You definitely have to learn to pivot, and because things definitely will hit the fan, and once everything's settled, then you get through it. But if you have a purpose and you have determination for something bigger than yourself, seriously, and so it makes it
sounds
all
cliche, but
all worthwhile.
Yeah. So at the end of 4 months, we have survived. And we are, we have routines that we enjoy. We get out, especially we're in Yosemite. We've seen some incredible sights. I mean, check out the El Capitan and the, what's it called? The fire waterfall.
Yeah.
Yep. So we are in it for the long haul. We are so committed to Rolling Help. If you've stuck with us through this video, we sure hope that you will subscribe, because, as I said, it's not about subscribers and views to us. Ultimately, it's about helping our cause, giving a broader voice to food insecurity, and most definitely to RV life, because we're loving it.
Yes.
So, I'm Tony.
I'm Chris.
And thanks from Rolling Help.